I'm Hugh Hewitt. Senator Tom Cotton is from the state of Arkansas. He joins me this morning. Good morning, Senator. Welcome.
Good morning, Hugh. It's good to be back on with you.
I have a lot to ask you. I want to begin, though, with the most important question. You're on judiciary, so you may know this, you may not. Why was Springfield, Ohio, chosen to receive the massive influx of refugees, immigrants, legal and illegal, from Haiti?
So, Hugh, as best I can tell, it wasn't a single massive flow of Haitian migrants. What you have is a situation where the incompetence and the ideology of the Biden-Harris administration conspired with what appears to be the ambitions or interests of some local business owners and city planners and economic developers in Springfield. So the Biden administration keeps granting what's called temporary protected status to Haitians because of the earthquake at first and political instability. I mean, like you, if we're going to give legalized status to Haitians because of political instability in Haiti, we might as well just bring every single one there, because that's been the defining status of Haiti for 200 years. So that's the first issue. That's why there's so many Haitians in the country right now. And then second, as best I can tell, you had, business owners, Chamber of Commerce types in Springfield who wanted more workers there, realized that this Biden-Harris decision to grant temporary protected status means that there's a large pool of migrant workers who are temporarily in legal status, and therefore they could bring them there and pay them less than local workers. And once that happens, Hugh, as you see in immigrant communities all around our country, the word gets out pretty quickly. And they may have even been recruiting in Haitian communities in, say, New York and Miami. So it very rapidly got to the point where you had 20,000 Haitians there. And I've seen the quotes from, Chamber of Commerce types or business owners who are very happy that they now have this huge new workforce and it depresses wages and bargaining power for local workers. But what does that do for everyone else, Hugh? What if you're a guy that was working in a factory and your wife was a school teacher? What does that mean for you? It doesn't do anything for you. It means your kid's school spent $400,000 on Haitian Creole translation services, money that could have been spent on cheerleader uniforms or band equipment or a new playground for the elementary school or more money for reduced lunches. And if your kid breaks his arm, you take him to the emergency room, you wait 3 hours as opposed to 20 minutes. And you have to worry about the safety of your family driving on the streets. So I think it's a combination of both the ideology of the Biden-Harris administration and some local interests in Springfield who have a lot of influence, not aligned with the general interest of Springfield's citizens.
The liberal writer James Fallows, probably 20 years ago, wrote a very important essay, at least to me, on how immigration pathways develop and evolve so that the first immigrant plants a flag, legal or illegal, doesn't matter. Their family members come, the family members of the family members come, the friends come. And so you end up, for example, with every supermarket in a major Texas city, I don't want to say Dallas because I think it was Dallas, might have been Houston, being cleaned by a particular ethnicity because of that chain effect. But I was wondering at the beginning, was there any flight of Haitians to Springfield? Was there any federal government pointing to Springfield? Because word of mouth is word of mouth, but 20,000 is a lot of people.
Yeah, Hugh, it's possible. I don't think that there's been adequate transparency from the Department of Homeland Security about that. It is entirely possible. I just don't know one way or the other.
All right, that's fine.
I do
Bernie
think
Moreno
there's a concerted
asked
effort
me
by certain locals to do so.
Bernie Moreno asked me yesterday, Hugh, it's the size of Warren. And I said, yes, that's my hometown, and Bernie goes there a lot when he's campaigning. And I said, we couldn't absorb 20,000 Canadians. It's a mind-boggling number. And everybody's focused on the wrong thing. I don't know if Donald Trump purposely used his illustration to draw attention to Springfield, but I didn't know about it till the debate, and now I'm just astonished. Second thing in the debate, Kamala Harris stated unequivocally, and I don't believe it was in response to a question, she stated that there were no American troops in a combat zone. You are a veteran of combat. You are a veteran of combat zones, both in Iraq and Afghanistan. First, you're on armed services as well and intel. Do we have any American military in combat zones?
Yeah, I thought Kamala Harris' statement would come as quite a surprise to all those soldiers we have still in Iraq and Syria who are getting shot at and mortared and have drones and rockets sent their way by Iran's terrorists in the region, or maybe all those sailors who are floating around like sitting ducks in the Red Sea as rebels and outlaws in Yemen armed by Iran keep shooting at them. Quite a surprise to all of those brave troops we have that we apparently don't have any troops in combat zones anywhere around the world.
Does that, to me, it's just disqualifying. Either she lied because they're giving combat service ribbons to the naval forces serving in that area under fire from the Houthis, and either she lied or she's just ignorant.
It goes always possibly both with her, knowing her as I do from her time in the Senate. I think it showed just a lack of seriousness and lack of preparation to be the commander-in-chief. And it's not like she's unfamiliar with this. I mean, she is, the number two in the administration. She's not the commander-in-chief, but she has to be prepared at a moment's notice to become the commander-in-chief. And again, I don't expect the president or the vice president to get a troop laydown of troops we have everywhere. We have troops in the world every morning, like the Secretary of Defense or the chairman of the Joint Chiefs might get, or like, commanders down to the company level get in the military. But to believe or assert or lie or whatever it was that we don't have troops in combat right now who are potentially being shot at any given moment, again, just shows a lack of preparation and seriousness about her role as commander-in-chief.
Now, Senator, I want to turn to the second assassination attempt on Sunday. I have known Secret Service agents since I went to work for Richard Nixon in the fall of 1978, wet behind the ears right out of college. Wonderful men, they were all men at that time, who would lay down their life for RN and every protectee since. So I'm not critiquing individual Secret Service agent, but it was a failure that he got that close, that the shot didn't, the Secret Service agent who shot at him did not hit him, and he got away. That's really the biggest error. I don't know that a handgun can hit someone from whatever distance the agent was at, but they deterred the attack. Nevertheless, long gun within 600 yards of a president, not supposed to happen. Perimeter not established. Would-be killer gets away. What's your assessment of the Secret Service right now?
Hugh, I joined President Trump in commending the very skilled, brave men and women on his security detail who apparently followed their standard operating procedure and executed it to a T. I think it raises extremely troubling questions, though, about Secret Service leadership and how they let the detail be so minimally resourced. They've acknowledged now that President Trump doesn't have the same level of security as Joe Biden, the sitting president. And understandably, we want the sitting president in the chain of command and with the nuclear football to have the highest level of security. I mean, given that Donald Trump just dodged an assassin's bullet 2 months ago by a fraction of an inch, don't we think the Secret Service should have upped the level of resources on his detail, maybe had it match Joe Biden's detail? And why didn't Joe Biden direct that to happen? And why isn't he directing it now? He's saying that Congress needs to spend more money on the Secret Service. I mean, maybe Joe Biden should decide that he doesn't have to spend the next 6 weekends at his beach home in Rehoboth or even at his home in Wilmington. You know what most Americans will do for the next 6 weekends? They will stay at their own home and watch college football and NFL and playoff baseball. Would it really be such a burden on Joe Biden to say, I'm going to stay at the White House or maybe go to Camp David to secure enclaves and enjoy playoff baseball and weekend football for 6 weeks? All the stress that it takes off my detail, I'm going to surge Donald Trump's detail.
That's a smart idea. And he could watch Ohio State, the Browns, and the Guardians, and they're all winning, and they're on every weekend. So, Senator, I want to close by asking you about the Overton window and appointees. The Steelers fans, God love them, we need them to vote for Donald Trump. They won't understand the Overton window, but I made the argument this morning in opening the show and on X that a presidential election is not just about the president and the vice president. They bring 3,000 people with them. And I believe the Overton window for appointees has shifted radically to the left. And I just cannot imagine that 3,000 people Kamala Harris would bring with them. only a handful of which go through the Senate, which is going to be, I hope, in Republicans' hands. How dramatic a difference will there be between Team Biden and Team Harris if they assemble 3,000 people to get the political appointee jobs?
Well, I think it'll be pretty significantly different. Just look at the worlds in which Kamala Harris has marinated. She spent her first years of her life in the San Francisco Bay Area. Then she spent her teenage years in Montreal. And then she returned to the Bay Area for 20 years, where she was associating with Willie Brown and Nancy Pelosi and Gavin Newsom. This is one reason why she's always been so politically maladroit. It's not just that she grew up in a one-party state, but she grew up in a far-left ideological brew in the San Francisco Bay Area. That's why she's a San Francisco liberal. And she's not flip-flopping right now, Hugh. She's not moderating her position. She's lying. Like, she believes everything that she stood for when she was a senator, a most liberal senator, and when she was a soft-on-crime attorney general, or when she ran for president in her own right in 2020, as opposed to having the nomination gifted to her this year. So that's what you're going to get from her as president, and that's the kind of people you would get from her in the administration as well. So if you think Joe Biden has appointed a bunch of liberal ideologues, you ain't seen nothing yet should Kamala Harris win.
Amen. Thank you, Senator Tom Cotton. I appreciate the time. Be well today, Tom. Stay tuned.